Hi, welcome, Jesse. So yeah, that's just a few things that we're going to take care of today. Be sure to let us know. And one thing to remember when dropping the link in the chat, um, so what you'll need to do is copy that into your browser, and then that'll come up for you. Okay? I'm so excited. This is a great one. So we've had Carrie and Kate on before, and it's amazing. We've had a great time with them. So our agenda today, it looks like, I'll welcome you. And then we're going to learn some about what Inspire Care 360 offers. So we do offer affordable staff health care. We also have star rating and reputation. We'll then meet our guests, Kate and Carrie, and we'll have a discussion with them. An open discussion. Please put your Q&A in the box. Also, we have a special offer today. We have a $30 gift card, and I'll drop the link in that at the end of the webinar today. Okay, and also I will be dropping a link to our certificate. So I'll drop that in our chat so you can just have that link for the certificate as well. Okay, now introductions. So Tony DiAgostino, he is our owner and operator of 3 ECE schools. I've had the pleasure of working with him for 4 years. He's pretty amazing guy. So yeah, without any further ado, I'm going to go ahead and let you take it over, Tony.
Kim, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. This was Kim's first emceeing, and she did a fantastic job. So let's give her a little applause in the background just because she did wonderful. And she wasn't sure how she would take it on, but I think she's just done wonderful for us. And we'll see a
Thank
lot
you.
more of her in the future. So we'll see you in a bit, Kim.
Thank you so
Wonderful. We're going to go ahead and get started, everybody. And before we have Kate and Carrie come on, just a few items here is we like to do is a few housekeeping things in the beginning. And first is Healthy Advantage. You know, we are just in the beginning of summer, but at the end of the day, this is the kind of planning. A lot of people do their benefit enrollments in the fall. And usually if you're waiting till August, you're almost too late. So it is the kind of thing that if you would like to learn more about Healthy Advantage, the very cool thing is this was developed specifically for the childcare industry. There is no other benefit plans, healthcare benefit plans that were specific for the childcare industry. It is very affordable and flexible. It has, $15 office and specialist visits, $50 urgent care, more to it than just that. No high premiums, no deductibles. So when you think of a major medical plan, you're like, well, I have to pay like $400 a month. And then on top of it, we have to pay deductibles like 6,000 up for a family, like $10,000 before we actually get to use dollar one. And they're, for the employer, oftentimes you're splitting that 50-50. And it's a big expense for everybody, especially if your staff are not even using it. So there's a very low premiums. It starts at $50 per person up to the first 10 people. And then after that, it drops down to 25 on your staff. There is a 5 minimum. So just so you know that. And it includes telemedicine for each one of the programs. It is also meets the Affordable Care Act. So if you're hovering around 50 employees, and maybe we also have not only child care business, but maybe you do something else, any kind of employees that work for you, if you're a majority shareholder in those businesses, you do qualify for the Affordable Care Act, unfortunately. And then there are some stiff penalties with penalty A and penalty B, but this meets the requirements so you can avoid those penalties with our program. And we provide full benefit administration. So what does that mean? That means we help you with understanding and doing your census, doing the marketing to the staff, helping them educate, understanding the difference between major medical understanding the difference between our programs with Healthy Advantage, what maybe supplementable programs might be, or voluntary like Aflac type of programs, and what are really the differences? Who pays for what? How much do they really cost? How much do you really get covered? So they can make some educated decisions. And we have multiple conversations, and then we actually do the rollout in one-on-one conversations. So full benefit administration. And then once those have decided who is going to come on board, we help do the payroll work for you. So what that means is we help it either electronically or prepare the payroll numbers for you to get them over to you so you have them for payroll every week. So it is a big lift off of your shoulders. And we also have Healthy Advantage, or excuse me, IC360 Rep. What IC360 Rep is, it is your tool for really driving home and driving up your star ratings. Quite oftentimes, unfortunately, what happens is, as owner operators, we have a staff member maybe who left not on the best terms, or a family who's a little disgruntled because you needed to separate for that with them for some reason, and they might not be happy. Well, as we know, people quickly these days go online and sometimes trash your childcare. The problem is your childcare reputation is everything. It's not a little thing, it's everything. So if people put in a 1 or 2 or 3 star rating on you, that can be very difficult. You might even have 5 star ratings today, but only 4 or 5 of them. And then one day you get a 1 star rating and it brings your overall rating down to 3. So be like some of the others who've been using IC360 Rep. We have a member of ours who has been working with us and IC360 Rep for 5 years. They have over 250 reviews that are positive. So imagine what happens when they get 1 1 star review. If that does still happen to them on occasion, it doesn't touch the number at all. It doesn't move the needle. They have still a 4.8 or 4.9 overall ranking, and it is a way to create strong brand awareness. So if you want to learn more about IC360 Rep or Healthy Advantage, reach out to Kim. She'll be wonderful in getting back to you and giving you the information you need. At the end of this, we're also going to talk again about if you are a decision maker and you have 30 to 45 minutes and you want to learn more about our ECE University, about our HR services, about Healthy Advantage, or possibly IC360 Rep or our GPO, you can get that with booking time with Kim to learn that and get a $30 gift card. Maybe go out and get a few coffees for yourself. I wish you could get a lot more of that now, but that's how it is. So let me bring on board here visitors who are not new to us. They've been with us before, Kate Woodward Young and Carrie Casey. And if they would like to both come on board, that would be awesome. And today we're going to have them as the hosts of Childcare Conversations and podcasts, and also best-selling authors of specific industry books. They come to us with a lot of years of experience, co-founders in credentialing programs, podcast hosts. They're more of an expert than I'll ever be. So I strive to be one of them one of these days. And they are former childcare owners and business consultants. So they really come by it authentically. Welcome, ladies. How are you today?
Oh, we are great. How are you, Tony?
Wonderful. I always like having this welcome conversation as if this is the first second we talked, when we know we were trying to work out all the technical things a few minutes ago. Carrie's trying to get on, Kim's having issues with her audio, but we're here today. So it's wonderful to see your beautiful faces.
Well, we are excited. We're, glad to see some other Texas representation online today because, we're all inside in the air conditioning because it's just ridiculously hot for it to be early June already. So,
I know. And a
yay,
lot of
Texas.
there you go. And a lot tend to, we do have this, just so everybody knows, you will get a replay link because a lot of people sign up and then they come back for the replay. And then this actually becomes a podcast. So it will also become a podcast and lives on forever. So you can download this in the future too. But with that said, Kate and Carrie, I hand the reins over to you and you can
Oh.
start and just let me drive the slide. So I'll just, move when you want me to move.
All right. Well, that sounds great. Well, today we are going to talk about what it means to design an engaging work environment, how to empower your employees to reach their potential, and last but not least, strengthening onboarding and communication skills. And Carrie and I can talk about any one of these for like all day. So we are just going to touch on them just a little bit, give you kind of a taste for you to maybe go back tomorrow and go, okay, what's one thing out of each one of these I could actually put in my program today?
I mean, it makes or breaks your program. It's not about bouncing around from classroom to classroom all day long. It's about giving respect and support to your individual staff. And we're gonna get into that.
Well,
Sorry.
and that's okay. So one of the things that I think is a buzzword that sometimes folks get stuck on is that term culture. So we're going to take a few minutes and talk about what it is when no one is watching, what's happening in your program, because culture is built every day through actions, consistency, and your leadership.
It's about making sure that they feel respected and challenged and appreciated. And a lot of times you're really good at one of those three things. You might be good at getting them to feel appreciated, but not so good at that challenged or respected, or, a different one. It doesn't matter. We all have strengths in this and weaknesses. I love to challenge my staff. I don't always remember to tell them what a great job they did today. So we've got to do all three if we want them to stay with us and stay engaged for as long as their life cycle in the program could be. We have to model the behavior we want, because way more is caught than taught. And that doesn't just apply to kids. It applies to staff too.
That is so true, Carrie. And I think one of the things that's really important that sometimes we forget as directors and owners is that our staff need their own space. And I don't mean the classroom, and I don't mean the adult size restrooms, because that's always really important. Some folks are child height, but we would still like to not be in the child bathroom. But we do want to make sure that the staff have a place that feels comfortable for them, that reflects who they are. It really can be a former closet. Just don't leave all the shelves in there where they have to still store all the stuff.
Well, Kate, let me ask you this. Some of my schools, I'm lucky enough in one of my schools that I have a room for, making a lounge, and I let the staff go at it. I was like, hey, I'm going to give you guys a budget, go at it, make it your own. And so they went in there, they decorated it, they brought in furniture, they brought in the things they wanted and made it comfy. Unfortunately, I have another school that unfortunately we only have about a closet's worth of space.
Mm-hmm.
So when you have very little space, what kind of options do we have? Because maybe, safe, comfort, functional doesn't always mean that they're going to have a personal lounge, but it also means how they're treated or how they have break time. So between the two of you, what are your thoughts about that?
I'm going to let Carrie jump in first because she was
because my first school, my office was the laundry room. We didn't have spare space for anything. Every square inch was given over to the kids because it was a shoestring operation. And I was like, the heck, I'm going to put 300 square feet of usable space for the teachers. Like that's multiple children. No, we're not doing that. And so in that program, we had the kitchen where we did the food service, and we made some space for storage of personal items, etc., in that kitchen space. Eventually, we got rid of one of the infant rooms and made that into a break room. But when it was bootstrapping, man, no, thank you. I've had other places where I've worked where it was that we had a gazebo or one of those octagonal picnic tables outside because there was a lot of outdoor space. There just wasn't a lot of indoor space. So it was protected from the weather. It was protected from children's runny noses. It was protected from the classroom chaos, but it wasn't inside. It was just a way to go be away from everything. And you could go there on a rainy day because you're inside a gazebo and it was completely roofed.
Wow.
But
But it does sound like, you can get creative. You can look at different options, even if you don't have a lot of space, even if like a room is used probably for school age at the end of the day, it could be a break place for, teachers throughout the day before the school agers come in
Yeah.
and the rambunctiousness starts.
Yeah.
absolutely. And it's something to consider if you've got programs, because we have a lot of programs that we work with, Tony, and I'm sure we've got folks online who have noticed changes in their pre-K enrollment. And so some folks try to keep those rooms, they just keep them smaller. And one of the things that we've encouraged some staff to do or to consider, in addition to transitioning to some out of school time care, but also rearrange your rooms and try to give yourself that space. Because again, and it doesn't have to be a big space, it can be a tiny space, and it doesn't have to be necessarily a permanent space. However, depending on the size of your program and the age of your staff and your parents, you may need a space for nursing mothers anyway. So that's always an HR consideration. But just remember, even a sticky note that says, "You've done a great job today," is a huge help, even when it comes to understanding space that reflects values and that they still feel safe, because they feel safe in your program.
Let me
not
ask
just
you
the
about that,
space.
because you mentioned recognition and for retention here already, and you
Yep.
just talked about giving that recognition again, which I think
Mhm.
is awesome. If you looked at it from your experiences, what would you say has more value? And this is a tough question, but is it the almighty dollar or is it the recognition daily? Carrie, I see you shaking your head.
I mean, it's going to depend on where people are in their life, as to what's going to be most impactful for each of your individual staff. But in general, I find that recognition and matching the benefits or pay to where that individual is. Because I can pay you $25 an hour and give you absolutely no benefits, or I can pay you $17 an hour and give you free childcare or 50% off childcare. And the $17 is going to make your whole life function better because you've got that discounted childcare and you got 2 kids. So it matching the pay and benefits to where that staff person is, that doesn't make any sense to the 20-year-old who's going to the local university to get their teaching degree. Like, they don't care about the fact that you give discounted childcare. I think it's matching the recognition and the benefits to the individual. I'm a huge believer in finding out what motivates each of my staff and not having a cookie cutter approach. I am a middle child, so I do like things to be fair, but that does not mean that everybody gets a Kit Kat bar because somebody needed a break today. It is, I'm going to give this teacher a Kit Kat bar because I know they need a break. And it's fun to then sing the little Kit Kat song as I give them the Kit Kat and let them leave the classroom. That is fair for them. It's that whole equity versus equality thing. So
Yeah. Well, let me ask you this on the other side too. And I'm sorry, I hope I'm not monopolizing your time with these questions, but
That's okay. Ask them.
yeah, let's ask you this. What is the wrong way to do a recognition program? In other words, what is the kind of thing that a recognition program, actually creates more problems than it does benefits?
the first thing that popped
Okay.
into my head was giving everybody on staff a ham, and you have 2 Muslim staff members and 2 Jewish staff members who keep kosher. Because you just gave everybody ham, which is equal, but you got 4 of your staff members who can't eat, like, depending on how they feel about it, they may not even be able to touch the ham. So
Yeah.
Or giving everybody something, on Mother's Day without really
Right.
thinking through what that means, right? Or doing stuff for Teachers Day, but forget that you have admin assistants, like you have, admin staff, and then not recognizing them on Professional Administrators Day. Right.
Yeah.
So you have to be aware. And sometimes, and I am definitely one of those people, that I'm almost overly aware. I had I feel like this sounds bad. Husband number 2 was in the medical profession, and he was the only male in his clinic. And every year they gave everybody the exact same employee appreciation gift, which meant I got a lot of spa days because they gave them to him. And so, you know, think through, if you're going to give people gifts, does that really make sense for everybody? And your staff only want so many things that are swag, you know, for your
how
program.
many things covered in apples do we really need? Like
Yeah.
the number of apple covered things I've gotten over my career is ridiculous. I think it's also, we talk a lot, you know, the modern parlance is having like a report card for your staff, like having stuff that you're tracking across multiple elements of their job. And it needs to be both the carrot and the stick. I think some people are all about, I'm going to catch my staff every time they do something wrong. And other people are, I'm always going to give them all kinds of perks and benefits. And then the person who's given perks and benefits all the time feels walked over and abused. And the person who is constantly catching people misbehaving feels like their staff isn't any good. You can't, if you do either one by itself, you don't have a good staff. You've got to have high expectations. I know that's a later slide, but recognition leads to good retention, and recognition isn't just of everything they've done well, it's also of what their challenges are. You've got to recognize both parts, because people don't like working for people who don't care how good the work is.
Well, and you know, you both make really good points. One of the things I learned the hard way is because at one point I had 6 schools and I thought I was on top of most of it, but we used to do, we don't do it currently, but we used to do a hustle award in each one of the schools. And so every month there would be a teacher who won the hustle award. And it was one of those things that part of the directors and other teammates would sort of do. Well, one of the schools ended up defaulting to everybody's going to get the hustle award month after month, no matter how well they hustled or not. They were just going to be, and so people were getting with a sign up there, and other teachers would walk by with disgust because like, she doesn't deserve the hustle award at all. They're just giving it to her because she's in rotation. And so it lost the value of the recognition, is giving people recognition because they're spreading the peanut butter evenly, I guess you would say.
Yep.
So
again, it's that whole equality versus equity. Giving everybody employee of the month is not fair. I'm a middle kid. It needs to be fair.
Okay, Jan Brady. Sorry for those who would.
I'm thinking we got a whole other episode at some point in time, Tony, just on what does it mean to be a middle child.
There you go.
Let's have some fun. So, all right. So one of the things we really hope that you're gathering from the conversation, and again, feel free to put some questions in the Q&A if you've got some, that empowered teams are, you know, believe it or not, and I know this may sound a little bit, right? They want to be trusted, right, Carrie? I mean, wouldn't you say that's a good place for that to start?
Absolutely. You've got to trust yourself that you made a good decision to hire this person. And then you need to let them do the thing. They will be more productive. They will be happier. And if they're happier, then the kids are happier, because the kids are not happy when the adults are grumpy. And they can walk into the room, and even if the teacher has the smile, you know, they've got that I'm smiling, but I want to punch somebody face. The kids know that that is not a real smile. Like they're wired that way. It's part of, you know, evolutionary biology. Look for the dangerous thing. And so the kids are going to be on edge if the staff aren't able to feel some sort of control over their environment.
Absolutely. And what's great is that this can be easy. This can be something, and this is something that if you're listening today or you're listening to the replay, you can start this tomorrow. And this can be something as simple as that weekly check-in. So I'm not talking about checking in with every staff person every single day. If you've got more than one location, that's just as impossible, right?
I mean,
And
Tony could have done, when he had 6 centers, he could have done one, he'd have to do 2 centers on one day.
Oh, well, we just work on Saturdays.
there,
Yeah, that's it. You just need one of your schools to be open on Saturday, and then we'll be fine. It'll be
There you
fine.
go. We'd be good.
but somewhere you got to get those other duties as assigned done, right? Or the things you've really got to get done. But you know, peer shout outs again. Carrie's a real big proponent for fun names, and I think that's the next slide. But you know, I always loved. I actually was one of Carrie's directors, and I loved team lunch once a month. And sometimes we did it, you know, simple. When things were still operating on a shoestring, it was literally Carrie made spaghetti at home and brought it in. I mean, that works in almost any budget. And
Spaghetti and chili, man. Spaghetti and chili get you really far.
but what's great is that the engagement, like everybody was excited about it. They were kind of curious on what was Carrie going to come up with, or
Yeah.
we kind of delegated that responsibility or shared the responsibility. It was always kind of like, ooh, what is Saida cooking today? Right. Like, so we wanted to know what other people were going to be bringing in the crock pot. So,
And I mean, people get burned out on pizza. We need to stop just feeding staff pizza all the time. But that's another soapbox, and I'm not going to get into that. But none of these changes cost a whole lot of money. Making a crock pot full of chili and bringing, you know, different things to put on it and to scoop it with, spoons, Fritos, saltines, whatever you like to scoop your chili with. I'm not here to judge, you know, and we can have some veggie chili and Texas chili, you know, some people mix the two. I don't care. I'm not in charge of that. But these things don't cost a whole lot of money, but it means more to your staff that you cooked a meal for them than that you called Papa John's.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And during that 1 hour or 2 hours, because you might have the people who take lunch from 12 to noon and the people 1 to 2 or 11, you know, whatever. Not everybody will be there at the same time because people have different lunch breaks, but it gives people a chance to bond.
you mean somebody has to watch the kids?
Yeah. That's part of it's child care, not daycare. We don't care about the day, we care about the children. And part of what helps with retention is that they have relationships with the other people in the building. They start off with wanting to have a relationship with the kids, and then they start to have a relationship with the director, but eventually we want them to also have positive relationships with their coworkers. They need that sense of belonging and that consistency, which will increase their classroom engagement by up to 40%. Who wants teachers who are 40% more engaged? If you don't want that, please tell me in either the chat or the Q&A. Let me know if you don't want more engaged teachers.
Yeah. I don't think anybody's going to put that out there. You know,
They
but
can't go anonymous here, Carrie.
I know.
But let me ask you this. I know I'm throwing you guys a few curveballs just on the other side of it, because we all want, you know, I agree with both of you, and especially your ideas are wonderful. When we look at how we engage staff, you know, we're going all out, we're being authentic, we're doing things like you said, Carrie, making a meal instead of buying a meal. Those are wonderful. You sometimes have a couple naysayers, some people who try to bring the rest of the team down a bit, or like, oh, I'm not participating, or I'm going to make sure to go out to
Always
lunch
have
that
one of
day.
those.
Yeah. So how, you know, I think that's, you know, some of the owner operators out there, they struggle, like, you know, and we've struggled at times. You scratch your head and I'm like, how do we get this person on board? I know sometimes we can't, but what are your thoughts about how to bring those people in the fold who are, what I would say, are on the fence? They're on the engagement fence.
I think the biggest thing to remember is that you can't make everybody happy all the time. And you're going to stress yourself out, and you are going to burn out if you're a director trying to make every employee and every parent happy all the time. But I think what Carrie talked about pretty early on, which is getting to know your employees. And if you don't know your employees, you're not going to know what works and doesn't work, right? Kind of like the ham example. If you don't know enough about your employees to know why you've got employees offended that you gave them a holiday ham for maybe even a holiday that they don't acknowledge or recognize. Like there, you got a whole kinds of a mess going there, right? And you thought you were doing a good thing, or my favorite is how many water bottles do we need with the company logo? So.
I mean, I think that's true, but I also think so Kate is trying to get them to walk the plank. Sometimes you just got to get people to walk the plank. But the other thing is acknowledging that some people don't like other adults. And that is okay. I have some of those in my family. And I'll throw one in who does not work in the industry and never has. So I have a sister who is in her mid-30s. And my kids swear they've never had entire conversations with her. And they've known her their whole life. She does not like to talk to humans. She likes to talk to animals. She went to school for vet tech, right? That's what she likes.
There you go.
Is animals, and now she's a paralegal. So again, she doesn't have to talk to people. She just deals with people, right? And I think she's great. I have wonderful conversations with her, but not everybody does, because she just wants to do her thing and then walk on. And that is okay if you have staff who just don't want to socialize. But if
okay, so you mean I can't make, or I shouldn't make holiday parties mandatory?
No. And oh my gosh, the number of directors and owners I see in those Facebook groups complaining that I did this thing and I got 2 staff members who didn't come to the Christmas party or the holiday party or the summer break party, and I'm so mad about it. Okay, take a page out of Vernon Mason's book, and everybody who's at the party gets a bonus and a t-shirt. And if you don't come to the party, you don't get the bonus and the t-shirt.
There you go.
You're trying to encourage the behavior you want, but if somebody who is a grown adult doesn't want to come to your party, okay.
Good to know. Good to know.
You don't have to.
Yeah, but that comes back to that knowing your staff and knowing that that person has no real interest in socializing with their peers, but they have some connection to their peers. We want them to have some connection. That doesn't mean that they want to socialize outside of what's required.
Okay, so Carrie, when we talk about helping the staff solve problems, collaborate better, even take pride in their work, one of the things that I know we really talk about a lot is giving them fun titles.
Yes.
But it's more than that, right? It's about the trust, and it's about being able to take initiative. What do you mean by fun titles? What does that mean to you?
Okay, so the title I use most often as an example is having a party princess. There's somebody on your staff who loves to throw a party and will throw a party for any reason. They'll do a gender reveal for their cats. They don't care. They're going to throw whatever it is. They want to throw a party. And so we have holidays, we have birthdays for our staff members. Let that person have a budget and some standard operating procedures for how to do holidays, how to do birthday parties, how to do the once every 3 months big parent event, and let that person be the boss of it. But you have to give them the expectations, the standard operating procedures, and the budget. And when can they connect with their upline about the challenges they might be having? Like, for instance, we want to do popsicles in the park, and we've got these 2 kids who aren't allowed to have any sugar. How am I supposed to have popsicles with no sugar? Where do I find those? And how do I make sure that they get the popsicles with no sugar? Other kids can have them too, but I need to make sure that those 2 kids get those popsicles. Like, they need some problem solving time. You've got to give them the ability to go out and do it. You give them the fun title, and then you give them the resources and the autonomy. Giving your staff autonomy is so key to making sure that they love coming to work.
You know, we're never going to get through all 3 points, Carrie.
I talked about all 3 of those.
No, like we have 3 things we were going to talk about today. We're still only on number 2.
Okay.
This is still number 2. But anyway, we want you to make sure that you help your staff come up with goals, and they can be personal goals, and they can work on those personal goals even while being an employee at your program. They don't have to just be professional that may not relate to anything that they have in their long-term goals. If they want to be a musician or are a musician, do you offer music classes in your program? Have you reached out to help support them by making sure that they have Fridays off because they have Thursday nights or gig nights or whatever it might be? Have you done something to help them reach their goals? Because if they're feeling that you actually have their best interest at heart, regardless of what it is, Carrie's had employees who've wanted to join the military. She's helped people move halfway across the country and they thought it was their idea. That's a whole other podcast or a whole other episode, whole other webinar. What am I on? So,
Nobody knows what you're doing. But, you want to help them identify where they're going and offer them support. Because if you know where they're going and they want to, try out on American
Ninja Warrior
singing shows.
Oh, America's Got Talent.
America's Got Talent. And they're going to have a, audition in the next town over on a Thursday. You can go, hey, I know there's an audition in 3 months on a Thursday. Are you going to want Thursday off or are you going to want Wednesday, Thursday, Friday? What days are you going to want off? Proactively ask them how many days they're going to want off to go to that audition.
No, I don't want anybody to, nobody gets days off. Nobody gets days off, Carrie.
No, they need 3 days off to go to that audition. Trust me. But, we do that because if you do that, then they don't just bunk off and say, I'm sorry, I'm going to be out. I'm out sick. I'm so sick. No, I don't think I'll be back until Monday. Well, you could have planned this 3 months out and had a substitute and had a plan for the kids.
It also shows that you're investing in their journey, right? So this is
absolutely.
You care. And I think that's what we talked about a lot is.
Yeah. And also, if you've got teachers at your school who are absolutely amazing and have absolutely no interest in going anywhere else, they're like, no, I will be a 3-year-old teacher for the next 62 years. Does that mean we can't give them growth opportunities? Absolutely not. We can partner them up with the new hires and they can be that welcome buddy for the new hire. And every time they take on a new buddy, we give them a bonus while they're taking on that new buddy. So they get compensated for that additional emotional work that they're doing of helping someone else meet people. And no, don't park there. Because if you park there, Tony's going to get mad because that's his parking space. I know it doesn't say it's Tony's parking space, but it is. So don't park there.
It's a good idea, by the way.
So, during that time, you give them a bonus while they're doing it. And then once they don't have a little duckling under their wing, they can go back to their normal job. But you're creating leadership in them to do what they do best. You don't have to promote people out of the classroom. If they're great in the classroom and they want to be in the classroom, let them be in the classroom, guys. Stop trying to yeet them into admin. Let them stay in the classroom if they want to be in the classroom.
Yeah. That's one of the things that we ended up doing with one of my lead teachers. She has a master's degree. She's absolutely wonderful. And anytime I mentioned about her eventually getting into admin, she was cringing and she was like, are you really going to want me to leave? And I was like, nope. So she was phenomenal early on. And we, because she had her education too in the area, we made her our director of curriculum. And so now she runs all the curriculum for all the schools. She teaches other teachers. She helps set up stations for new teachers, working with them. She's an ongoing coach. She's available by phone. She loves what she does. So,
Oh,
Yep.
that's what we mean. Listen and match the job with the person. We've all, probably everybody who's listening has been at a time in their life at some job or something that somebody was making them a round peg into a square hole, and they couldn't figure out why they were miserable.
exactly.
So, all right. Now, I love, I mean, I will have, Mr. Rogers quotes everywhere if people will let me. And it isn't just because Carrie's maiden name was Rogers and that her friends all called her Fred. And for 25 years, I've been trying to get her to show up in Keds and a red cardigan. However, I have not succeeded at all in that journey. However, I do think it's really important to understand that you are going to have staff that might have bounced around for other programs. And part of it's because they didn't feel like anybody cared. Nobody heard them. And so the best thing you can do as a director, as an owner, whether you're listening to this live or you're listening to a replay, is sometimes you need to pause and really listen to your employees.
I mean, and here's the other thing. You have to be honest with them. In that first week, when they first come to work with you, if during the orientation period, you are not telling them the good, bad, and the ugly about working at your center, then you should not be surprised if they leave at lunchtime on Thursday, because you did not explain to them that they would have other people's bodily fluid on their body. That was not part of your orientation. You did not tell them that the kids are going to act up the first week that they have a new caregiver in the classroom. You also did not tell them how many unsolicited hugs they were going to get and how many pieces of artwork the children were going to present them throughout the day. So it's the good, the bad, and the ugly. You've got to tell them the truth and be consistent with it. Be honest, be consistent, and teach them the standard operating procedures. This is how we get kids to line up to go outside. We sing this song in this classroom. They walk this way. We have these two jobs. We have a caboose and a door holder, or we have a light turner offer and a door holder. Whatever the jobs are you have. I had a great name for the light holder for a while. I can't remember what it is, but teach them those standard operating procedures because the kids know them. And if they come into the classroom and don't know that they have to assign a door holder before they take the kids to the playground, the kids are going to act up and they're going to have a rough day.
The kids might get a little spicy.
Yep.
Yeah, because I think it's really important to understand that as you strengthen that onboarding and you're building that communication with new hires, you're also showing those who've been around for any amount of time that you're consistent, and that starts to build that trust all the way across your staff.
And one of Kate's favorite things to do now that everybody is used to a QR code is to, if there's something that people don't do every day, make a video of how to do it correctly. And, like loading a dishwasher or making up the mop water or something like that, and put a QR code on the mop bucket so that the staff person can use the tablet from the classroom to take a picture of that QR code and watch, okay, this is how I make up the mop water, right?
I also love a checklist.
SOP, but we also made it visual.
I do love a checklist and a clipboard. So, they go together, so if you're wondering, there's always both. So
yeah,
absolutely. All right.
Well, you both talk about clarity and consistency, and that results in trust. What are the opportunities really? Because I think when we think about, from everything you've been talking about, but really the whole center and the engagement and the foundation, it all comes down to trust, right?
Yeah.
And trust is the big key element. From your personal experiences, I'll start with you first, Kate, and then go to Carrie. But with your personal experience, What has been your secret sauce for trust?
I think the secret sauce, if you want to word it that way, which is kind of an interesting considering it's not a secret. I think that's the biggest thing is there's no secrets. The transparency is there from the get-go, and I am as consistent. It was a hard lesson to learn, but being consistent with every staff person all the time on the same topics. And that's where literally SOPs saved my life. It's like, this is how we do it. You know, like there's not, the wiggle room isn't there. So if I did it one time for one staff person, I went and wrote an SOP on how we're going to handle family emergencies. How are we going to handle if somebody had a car accident and they need a cash advance? Like whatever it was, the first time it happened, it then became an SOP. And I started out as a director pretty young, and you know that that was the biggest thing was transparency and consistency. So
awesome.
Yeah.
And Carrie, I'm going to give you a slightly different question. It is a little bit has a little bit of a challenge to it, and that is early on in your career, what did you think trust meant as to what it means to you now?
When I was an director in my 20s, I thought that it meant that I could solve all their problems. That they trusted that I would fix the issue. And now I think it is much more about that I believe that that my staff and that the parents at our schools have the capacity to solve problems. And that I'm here to be a resource for them, but not to solve their problems.
Listen, and I appreciate that. There's if you remember some of these old books, the 1 Minute Manager books that they had, there was one of them. She's going to go grab one because I'm sure she has on herself. But there's one that's called The 1 Minute Manager Meets the Monkey. There it is. There it is right there. The 1 Minute Manager book, and 1 Minute Manager Meets the Monkey. And that, if anybody's on here wants to read and you could sit that and read that in one reading, in one sit. And, you know, the theme of that book is it is very common for your team and your staff to put all their problems on you. The monkey's a problem, right? That's what it is. That's, you know, the metaphor. And they like to all give you their monkeys to put them on your back. And so what I heard Carrie saying is she used to take on everybody's monkey at first, but now she's pushing those monkeys back to the staff and saying, how are you going to handle that? I'm going to empower you to handle that.
So Tony, I don't know if you know, but we actually wrote a book, and I think Carrie's probably got one behind her.
Okay.
And it's actually called Don't Chase the Monkey. And
Don't Chase the Monkey.
And we added a 6th rule to that Harvard Business Review article.
There you go. So tell us about it.
Yeah, so we absolutely love this concept. We've been teaching this concept for 25 years. And what we've noticed with people in caring industries, so not just childcare and not just women, is that sometimes we want, like, Carrie and I both did this, especially when we were in our 20s, and people would come into our office and they tell us all their problems. And not only were they just trying to vent, we then took the problem, and back before everybody had smartphones, we'd pull out, you know, the yellow pages, and we'd write up a list of solutions for them and then gave it to them so that they could use it. They hadn't even asked for it yet. So not only were we trying to figure out the whole, you know, self-imposed, boss-imposed time monkey thing, we were struggling with, well, this is how I'm going to show the 40-year-old that I know how to help them. So even though I'm 20 and they're telling me about their teenagers' issues, I didn't have any kids, let alone teenagers. But I was going to give them all the resources I could find in a yellow pages. And actually, if you go to the picture that has all of our books, it's there, and it's available on Amazon. It's called Don't Chase the Monkey. So.
Okay, well, here we don't want to go too far, but
there it is, right there on the little monkey one.
There you go, in the bottom right-hand corner. Don't chase the monkey. Well, we'll get there in just a second.
Yep.
So, and I think we did get. Was there anything else you want to cover here?
Well, I was going to say, if we're giving out book recommendations when we're talking about onboarding staff, There's a book by Joey Coleman called Never Lose an Employee Again. And it is an amazing book. If you do not have a good employee journey for between the time that they apply for the job and 6 months, so that, 6 or 7 months, that book is amazing to help with that. And it talks
what's
about
the author's name?
Joey Coleman.
Okay.
And he talks about the need to have 360 evaluations so that the staff get a chance to give you feedback as well as to get feedback from their peers. And, they're getting feedback from all directions, but then they also can give feedback in all directions.
So let me ask you this, Carrie, and this is also for you too, Kate, when that's a scary thing for a lot of managers, leaders, operators, is asking the staff feedback about themselves, and how do you tend to coach leaders when you could tell they have that fear that they don't want to hear some of these things? And obviously, if they don't want to hear it, they know something's going on.
Right.
Yeah. So if you're really afraid to get feedback, then that tells me that you really need feedback.
But I think Tony brought up his very first statement was which is what makes that palatable, is that they've got a coach or a mentor. If you're listening to this and you don't have a coach or a mentor, don't try to do a 360, because otherwise you're going to probably end up beating yourself up. Or, Lordy, let's help us all. Don't go to your significant other and go, they don't like me, because now your significant other might try to fix it for you. And that wasn't really what you needed either. So find a coach or a mentor. I think if I could go back and do one thing as a director, I would have made my owner hire me a coach, because there were a lot of times where I was able to use my owner that way, but not a lot of directors can. And a lot of times the directors are there by themselves. They might have had decades of experience as a teacher and lots of training as a teacher. And we might give them, a 30-hour course or a 50-hour course and said, great, now you're a director. Or we might have gone, oh, look, you took a psychology course in college and an accounting course in college. Yeah, that was 30 years ago, but that's okay. You're qualified to be a director. And we don't really train the directors, and we don't give them mentors. Okay, I'll get off my soapbox.
But okay, so when you're getting that 360 evaluation, first off, if you're feeling vulnerable with that, put yourself in the place of every staff member you've ever given an evaluation to. They've had this every year for their entire career. And just because you're in leadership, you don't think you need to feel that vulnerability? I don't think so. This is a two-way street. But also, I'm stealing one of Kate's metaphors. When you're at a restaurant and they bring you your French fries or your onion rings, and they say, would you like ketchup with it? Would you like us to bring you ketchup? And you say, no, thank you. Do you think that waitress goes back into the kitchen and starts crying because people didn't want their ketchup? So you can't take it personally. It's not the waitress's fault that people didn't want the ketchup. You, as a leader, the fact that you are coming off as brusque, because my first language was sarcasm and my second language was English. And so I've gotten that in feedback before. And so I just made sure that I made that now part of my onboarding is I am sarcastic because I don't like conflict. So instead of getting into a conflict with you, I'll probably say something sarcastic. So I had to take that piece of feedback I got from 360 evaluations and front load it into the orientation in my program. If you're getting feedback from the staff saying that you're not being consistent, you're probably not being consistent. And so you need to go back to those standard operating procedures and go, okay, this is how we're going to decide who gets to go home early if numbers are down. We need to have a system for it so that I'm not just letting this person go home all the time because they're my friend, or because they're my most expensive staff person. I've got a system.
Sure. Awesome. And we're coming close to the end of our time, so I wanted us to make sure to get a few of the last slides covered. But I don't know if we have any questions out there. While people are, if there are any questions, people want to put them in the Q&A. If not, why don't you tell us a little bit about where we can find you and some of the things you've been up to? Because obviously you do have a number of books, including Don't Chase the Monkey.
So so there's two things here. If you go to that QR code for us, that would be awesome. Give us feedback on today's presentation, what you liked, what you didn't like. And that just helps us. It also helps Tony know whether or not it's worth bringing us back. We like coming once a year. I'd like to just say, okay, we from now on, we've got June. No, I'm just kidding.
There you go.
But you can find us in our podcast. So Childcare Conversations, you can find us on every platform as at Childcare Conversations. So YouTube, Pinterest, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. And we have over 250 episodes. I think we're up to like 255, 256 right now.
Wow.
And if you look up either Kate Woodward Young or Carrie Casey on Amazon, you can find any of our books. These are the ones that are industry specific. You do not get my cookbook on here or our children's books, but we have those too. So, Carrie, anything you want to add?
Well, I was going to respond to Cynthia's question.
Oh, there you go.
Cynthia said she's interested in starting a mentoring program for our teachers, but she's not sure where to begin. They've revamped the onboarding, awesome, to make it more engaging and comprehensive. And now we want to extend that support through mentorship. What are the first steps that they should take? Talk to your existing staff and see who would be interested in becoming a mentor or a coach. So do an inventory of your existing staff. That I think is the first step.
And with that, make sure they're people you want to mentor.
No, first you got to find out who's interested, and then you can interview just like you would interview in any situation. And that way, if everybody who said they were interested got an interview and only 2 people got picked, then it's very clear that, again, you were being consistent and you were being equitable. So, and then, Cynthia, since you're in Texas, I will tell you that CLI actually has a training pathway for coaching. And so I would go through the CLI Engage coaching track with those staff.
Which is instructional coaching. So it's helping teachers in a coaching setting versus other versions of coaching.
Yeah.
Well,
so it's how to help your staff become good mentors.
Well, ladies, this has been absolutely wonderful. Our time went that quick. It went way too fast. We could have spent another hour easily. It's just wonderful talking with you. And hopefully I'll have a chance to see you guys in the very near future at one of the conferences or shows that we tend to meet up at. And, but I want to thank you both very much, Kate and Carrie, for joining us today and, laying down some of your ideas, some of your thoughts, your wonderful sage wisdom too.
Well, I'm sure
Tony, have a great
this year.
Absolutely.
You guys never talk over each other at all, by the way.
No, never. And it makes it lovely for our audio engineer on the podcast. And so, they're just like, I can't separate it. You two just, so we tried to be scripted once. That didn't work well.
No, I know Carrie just goes on mute right now. She's like, Well, you both have been absolutely wonderful. I want to thank you both for coming on. I got a couple slides I'm going to finish up with here, but thank you so much for joining. For those of you who are looking for a certificate, you do have an opportunity to get a certificate for this as a 1-hour CEU course. And Kim will be sending that off into the chat right here in a second if you didn't have it. Again, too, if you do want to schedule a time with Kim, you will get a $30 gift card if you'd like to do a 45-minute tour with us. Get to understand a little bit about how we can really give you an ROI as part of what we do. And on our next one, come August 12th, we are going to be taking the month of July off unless we decide to have a pop-up one. Every once in a while, we find a good reason for a pop-up webinar, but we're going to have the wonderful Cindy Lenhoff, who we've had on several times before. I just love Cindy to death. She is wonderful. Why advocacy matters for childcare owners. This is such a huge issue. And I would really say that it is something that we all need to be involved with, even if we feel like we have a small school, or maybe it's not even our school, or we're part of a school. The advocacy part in our industry has a tremendous need. So for all of you out there, I'd like to thank you. This is Tony D'Agostino, founder and CEO of Inspire Care 360, along with Inspire Learning and Childcare Schools. Thank you very much for coming, and we will see you all again very soon. Take care, everybody.